On November 28, 1910, the worst mining disaster in the history of Pushmataha County happened at Jumbo. Jumbo was a small mining town in northwest Pushmataha County. In the book Ghost Towns of Oklahoma, at the time of its greatest growth, Jumbo had a hotel, a barber shop, a blacksmith, a pool hall and 3 general stores. Its maximum population was about 200 persons. Asphalt had been discovered in the area, and as the asphalt outcrop had the general shape of an elephant, the town was named Jumbo, after the most famous elephant of the era. Jumbo was the famous elephant that was part of P.T. Barnum's Greatest Show on Earth. It was because of his massive size that the word jumbo came to mean large in size. The Jumbo area had 4 shaft mines and 3 strip mines that were open between 1890 and 1910. The shaft mines were interlocked and the miners worked both day and night shifts. The mined asphalt was moved by wagon and later by tram to Moyers, then a railroad station, for shipment. The old tram track was still visible on the Riggin Place in the 80s, they called it the mini tracks. The explosion of 1910 wasn't the first mining accident in Jumbo. In 1905, the underground mines caught fire. Luckily this incident had no fatalities, as the miners were able to escape by climbing a ladder that led through an air shaft. 1910 had been a rough year for Oklahoma. According to Oklahoma Climatological Survey, 1910 holds a unique place in Oklahoma history. 1910 driest October of the century, statewide average precipitation of 0.14 inch, since tide. 1910 was also the driest year of the century, with statewide average precipitation of 18.95 inches. It also ended the driest consecutive years of the century, 1909 to 1910, 23.02 inches/year. So 1910 was the last year of the worst drought in Oklahoma of the 20th century. It was reportedly an unusually hot, dry October and November. And 4 days after Thanksgiving the Jumbo mine explosion killed 14 miners. The explosion occurred at the shift change on the morning of November 28, 1910, and was reported around the nation in newspapers the next day. Lehigh was a significant mining town in Cole County in the early days of statehood, and the Lehigh newspaper reported that 4 miners from Lehigh were killed in the explosion. According to the paper, quote, 9 men were entombed in the mine when an explosion wrecked it at 7:20 o'clock Monday morning, and 5 others, just starting down to work, were hurled 200 feet above the shaft into the air, and came down mere wrecks of humanity. End quote. It went on to report, quote, 5 men had just started their descent to the working level, when, with a roar that was heard for miles around, the entire area under which the mine is located appeared to sink down. The cage elevator, which started down, was hurled 200 feet above the mouth of the shaft, all its occupants being instantly killed. End quote. The paper then went on to give a list of the victims, quote, those who were in the cage at the time were J.W. Carpenter, Richard Palmer, Charles Self, Will Brown, and W.Z. Jones. The 9 men buried in the mine are Henry Self, Dan McCarty, J.W. Gould, Fars Lax, Thomas Stevens, Olin Malone, William Hawkins, J.W. Gillenwater, and Gerald Roberts was taken out alive. A.M. Doherty dropped dead in the telephone office at 9 o'clock from heart disease, caused by the excitement. End quote. While most of the miners were buried in the Jumbo Cemetery, William Hawkins and Charlie Self were buried in Lehigh. The Woodmen of the World had a lodge hall in Jumbo at the time. The non-profit fraternal organization that was founded in 1890 was very active in community affairs of the Jumbo area. Several of the miners killed in the explosion were members of the local lodge. The lodge erected one of its distinctive monuments at the grave of each miner that was buried in the Jumbo Cemetery. There was an unveiling of the monuments in 1911. There is not much left of Jumbo except a few buildings, the old store, and the cemetery, which is still well cared for, and the monuments of those miners killed in the explosion. In the newspaper accounts quoted earlier, it listed Gerald Roberts as one of the miners that were killed. It was actually Jordan Robbins, according to Karen Robbins Hooks, his great-great-granddaughter. She also graciously provided a picture of the family before the tragedy.